It's going to get even more convoluted and complex as the big dollars start rolling in. And everybody thinks that
it's going to be weird.
We have this corporate monopoly in Michigan now. Just wait until the federal actors start moving.
When 10,000 acres could supply the entire United States need for marijuana.
Yeah.
one, farm.
Yeah. In Missouri, Mississippi.
Surrounded by razor wire and super
pounds of weed saying we got no place to sell this.
That's right.
Shout out to Michael McKinney, brother. Yeah. Way to fight the power out there.
They might have to start burning this stuff just to get rid of the excess.
Oh.
They do that kind of. The government's involved. They do that kind of crazy stuff.
We were all at a fundraiser a few weeks back with our good friend Dana Nessel. And for the listeners out there, Steve had told me about this gentleman named Brad. And that Brad follows Dana around to events and videotapes her for the Republican Party.
I didn't really believe it.
I didn't believe it.
I thought it was something that Steve was pulling our leg.
So we're sitting there and we're in this banquet. This banquet area, and there's a partition in the middle of the room, and we're all sitting at the table, and Dana starts going on about how Brad's there, and then Steve comes around and says, I found Brad, and like, oh my gosh, and he's hiding behind this partition. So we go over to Brad and confront him. Sharmy took a selfie with him. Michael engaged Brad directly. And Brad didn't appreciate it. He got very...
he scurried out of the building.
Scared.
He ran.
He did.
He ran out of the building.
He told Michael that he makes a living smoking pot. And ever since...
I said, of course.
That Michael does.
Is there a job available doing that? No,
we all applied, and we're waiting to hear.
Simplest solution that fits all the facts. He's smitten.
Yeah, he was. He was blushing.
Yeah, no, he's in love.
That's good.
Yeah, sure.
That is good. But anyway, we chased him out of the hall. We didn't even really chase him.
He ran out the back door.
Call in and talk to me. If you're listening, call in and talk.
We later saw him sitting on the curb in front of the building waiting for, we were told, his mother to pick him up to drive him home.
Oh, that's right.
That's what we heard.
Yeah.
We're all in love. Come on.
Yeah, it was good. We told him that, in Michael's defense, Michael did offer him a ride.
Yes, he did. I did see Michael. He said, can I drive you home?
To the set.
Sure, I'll give you a ride.
Yeah, it was good. And then, of course, the High Times Cannabis Cup was last weekend.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go.
I didn't go either. Who went so they can talk about it?
I had to wash my hair.
Anybody like to call in who went to the event last week?
If you went to the event, you can call in and tell us how it was. It's 224-803-3098. We'd ask Jamie Lowell, but I don't know where the hell he's at.
He's out with the puppy.
He's right there.
Oh, here he comes. Well, that's good.
Jamie,
so Jamie, tell us about this this cannabis cup. We didn't go.
Hey, they stopped letting people in after a while.
Oh, this is Jamie's intro music. This is good. Where did he go?
You know, he's got the glasses on. That's what makes you take a look at this band. Like, there's a video with the guy with the glasses. Seriously, somewhere. Like, the lead singer. Like,
yeah.
Come on. Look, there's right there. Kind of get him on. There's right there. This song. Look at there. Kind of.
All right.
Oh yeah, I played it when it was. Okay, never mind.
That was fun. That was fun. So Jamie, how was it?
Sister Havana.
Tell us of the cup.
The cup turned out to be pretty good. It had its typical bad weather components.
First bad weather day, always.
Yeah. And it was obviously kind of a weird time. We're in this transition time into the regulated market. Some of the activity that takes place there can be considered to be outside of that regulated market by some. And there was some chilling effect by like the State Department and some things that the police said and Bailey said Don Bailey from the the application review board, and so it had a lot of there was some tension and some questions leading up to the event, but it got going, and there was a lot of people there, and a lot of people had a lot of fun and seemed to have survived, and it turned out pretty good. There's still some people complaining about some of the practical components not being handicap friendly enough,
but I mean that's where it is every year, and the same complaints every year. I mean, if that's the facility, that's the venue, there's not much you can do with it.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't perfect. My point is there's still complaints, but given the weird set of circumstances, it
at least people aren't getting charged and locked up. You can deal with the regular stuff. You can make up for it next time, make a better handicap.
Well, you really can't. It's like a pretty beat up old speedway, and it's kind of gravelly, and then there's like grassy.
Can we talk?
If you're in a chair, it's hard to maneuver. I'm sure.
I want to confess, or at least talk about that. Like I had genuine concerns. A lot of talk beforehand. I think we all kind of talked about it.
I definitely did.
Jamie, I know.
Jamie forged right ahead.
Forged right ahead. I'm.
Jamie's hard as fuck.
But I give advice from a lawyer's perspective. Better to be safe than sorry. And I'm not taking away from the events. I speak of those events as an expression of freedom, and try to explain to people when I talk to them of it has all the excitement and like adrenaline flow when you like get on the grounds and walk into the facility and see what's going on there, but it's missing like the drunken shit that goes on at all those other type of things where someone's throwing up,
right,
there's a fight that breaks out. There are people that get a little bit, but it's not. It's just it's cliche, like a different vibe, but it is really truly a completely different experience, and it's controlled to a certain degree in the sense of as much as someone may question its quote unquote how do you say it, compliance with the MMA, whatever, it still does not present dangers. It certainly doesn't cause concerns for individuals around, or even for those people that may not be engaging in the medical use of marijuana, what have you, And I think that, this is always like how I viewed it, putting this issue aside of whether they were going to be there or not. And I think that it's something to really look at and describe and be okay with, because from a lawyer's perspective, knowing like how law enforcement looks at it and taking that position in terms of giving advice what to be safe or not be safe, I don't think anyone's going to say that if, the current Attorney General, someone from law enforcement, is walking through there and observing some of the stuff that's taking place, they're going to take issue with its compliance, And I'm not saying that they could or should. I'm not saying that their observations would be correct. But I'm saying that there would be a commentary, I would imagine, about it's lacking in what would be described as state law compliance, just some of the activity. However, I would suggest that that's the problem. And, the conversation really needs to be like, well, what do these gatherings look like? And why wouldn't we allow them since there's no fights?
And I'm going to go back to what Howard Woolridge said earlier, because I'm in his club too. 0 complaints of any type of violent crime or crime with the victim where marijuana alone was the cause. 0.
And none at these events that have been there now, like,
I've never seen anything
6-7 times now or something like that.
Ever.
And that's probably because there's not a lot of drinking going on.
Right.
Almost no drinking.
Is there drinking?
No.
I mean, you might.
They don't serve alcohol there, do they?
I don't know.
If there's some alcohol around, it's not prevalent.
It's nothing that I've even really noticed, so I don't think so.
Yeah. Maybe at the restaurants.
I know that when they had it at Burt's, they had a bar when they had like that expo at Burt's. So it depends on the event. But the Cannabis Cup, no, I don't think there's alcohol.
And that's, there's 0 complaints of any type of violence or fights or crimes with victims that are caused by marijuana. So we got
to host a couple of High Times national podcasts while we were there, and that was a lot of fun. In San Bernardino and some other places, due to some change in law after these expos have been getting established there and legalization comes in and stuff, they've actually provided an ability for people to get like temporary licenses to come into an expo and distribute, as part of the
That's what we need to work on. Yeah.
And so that
would solve the whole problem.
In the future,
that will not happen if we don't all go vote in November.
Yeah. But I mean, they issue these temporary liquor things for events. They could issue cannabis.
So Matt Stang from High Times
yeah.
actually helped out a lot in the California legislature with that issue. And,
that's what we need to start working on.
It's progress.
Yeah.
He said that he would help out here as well with the information he brought to those lawmakers.
There could be some great events.
Yeah.
You could throw some great events.
Yep. So there was a lot of question and concern. The chilling effect was in place. They were pretty extreme there. They did everything they could think of to try to demonstrate some kind of compliance. I mean the situation even for vendors and some other and others who typically wouldn't be expected necessarily to be participating necessarily in the market, to be there, were required to be patients or at least have a doctor's recommendation to participate. So they were trying.
So you needed a card to enter.
Yeah, they were trying to be a little bit,
But isn't that the case every year? Don't you always need a card?
No.
That's for entertainer, speakers.
No,
vendors
don't need cards.
Right. No.
Were they checking vendors this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because in previous years, vendors, anybody who was coming through the vendor entrance, there's no card. You didn't need one.
So.
And most people had their wristbands already that they got from people who were vending,
Sure.
and they just walked through.
Well, there's different ownership. There's slightly different approach to how they do these things. A lot of things are the same, but some things
and
are.
they're trying to gear towards a music event too. They're trying to build up that aspect of it where they bring.
I
it's
wonder
a
if
concert.
Ludacris had a card.
Yeah, well, but he can't. He's an out of state, so how could he?
Well, maybe he
Michigan
has an
recognizes
out-of-state
out of
card.
state, blah blah blah, because
Right.
blah blah blah. I don't know if
but
that's
he
right.
might not.
It's supposed to.
I don't know.
We should find
But
out.
that's what they're trying to move more towards a music in recreational areas, more towards a music event, and kind of like a fair bazaar.
And there's no
music event.
question that a lot of people were there because of the lineup that they had. I talked to many people. That's not my typical genre of music, but I recognize, even though that's not the case, I recognize all the
names.
people who are on
and
the
last
list.
year too, they had great names. They
Sure.
had George Clinton and.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was great.
Hell yeah.
Just from like a concert perspective,
fun.
people
it's a
show up and.
They come just for the
Some,
concert, and then they go around, check out the booths in the event, but they typically don't come as the typical festival goer.
Sure.
They're there for the music.
So on the first day, the podcast, each day, myself and Rick Thompson hosted it, and we had a lawyer by the name of Josh Colton, who he said he was independent. He wasn't with any particular law firm.
Oh.
We shut him up. He was trained.
Yeah, I've heard about that guy. He's a superstar on the rise.
We mentioned Camoran Law several times during the course of that interview, and it went really well. Actually,
Jamie and Rick mentioned it. Josh didn't.
No, Josh actually did.
Yeah.
Josh did quite a bit, and we had a good conversation, and we got into a little bit of everything going on. Just let the kind of a free flow conversation evolve. And then the next day, we had Amy Carter, this woman named Renee Turner, who is a write-in Republican candidate to be governor of Ohio.
Huh.
And then DJ Short. So both days went really well, and we had a good time. And they do it as a podcast now. So it's a comfortable couch and table setup.
So you're not out in the
Instead
elements.
of those shitty chairs.
Instead of the shitty
Under the
chairs and the
tent.
table.
Yeah.
And you just hang out, and sometimes there's a
great.
few people in there, sometimes there aren't, but it's always being broadcast, and so it worked out pretty well. That was High Times. And of course, on the inside, many things that have gone on in the past with less consistent names of participants. A lot of people who were looking to get licensing were definitely not there. That was noticeable.
Or maybe they were there, but just not.
Well, some of the
out.
people were there, and,
Yeah.
and maybe they were helping to support some more of a nondescript
So you didn't
kind of a
see all the
setup.
familiar faces you normally see.
No, I mean, you saw maybe some of the people walking around,
Okay.
but a lot of people didn't have the presence, the big booths, and all that kind of stuff as in the past. Some did. They made sure they weren't distributing cannabis, so no undercover or somebody could come in there. And
But booths were distributing cannabis, right? I mean,
Some
it's the
were,
cup.
yeah, but they were apparently not concerned about possibly
Well, if they
being
hadn't
recorded
applied for
doing it.
license, yeah.
There's some nondescript places, but Lake Effect and Herbal Solutions and others had places, but they weren't.
What about the big names? I know, like Flavor X that was out there. Were they distributing? Because last year they were just doing CBD. That's all they had was CBD.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean,
Because they're like one of the national sponsors.
that's a good question. Other people may know. I don't know. I walked around the main part maybe a couple times briefly. I was over by the nonprofit and the podcast area most of the time.